Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Thursday, Friday was all NFL draft stuff. I mean, everybody, whether you like football or not, you're locked in on the draft, okay? And so I missed this story in real time, but I want to talk a little bit about it because there was this story that came about of like, oh, that Kentucky spent okay, backdrop. Portal season, you know, there's all sorts of rumors, innuendo, but rosters are largely starting to get finalized. And so there's been this conversation of, well, how much is everybody spending? And so there was this report out of nowhere. It was like, oh, Kentucky actually spent the most. And it was actually pretty close to $20 million. And why that's crazy, besides the fact $20 million for a basketball roster is insane, but two, Matt Norlander from CBS Sports put out a report about 2 weeks ago where he basically said, look, to be a top-end college team, you're going to have to spend at least $10 million. And he listed a bunch of schools, you know, Louisville, Kentucky, BYU, Arkansas, et cetera. They're spending at least 10. We know that. So 20 is double that. So it was a story that got everybody's attention. I know Matt Jones, Kentucky Sports Radio, talked about it. How about this? Producer Matt, who was the prominent coach who decided to weigh in? Oh, Rick Pitino, who's got an opinion on everything, weighed in, tweeting, I love the exaggerations of what people are spending on NIL. That was on Friday about about noon Eastern time. So when the story gets to Rick Pitino in beautiful Queens of New York, you know it's a big story. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about this. Is it true? Is it not? What's fact? What's fiction? First of all, I'll say this. Finally got a chance to look at it once the draft started to wind down over the last day or so. The guy who broke the story, producer Matt, you can put up the tweet. It is my buddy David Sisk from Rivals. Okay, so this is the tweet that I think got everybody going on social media. It was another account tweeting David Sisk's information. Per David Sisk, and this was with Rylan Griffin, I guess. I'm told that it's still on for now. This was the recruitment of Rylan Griffin. It may not be out of the question to get both. This was Rylan Griffin and Denzel Aberdeen. The same individual told me that the talk around agency and GM circles is that Kentucky could spend as much as $20 million on NIL. So it was an interesting thing because I know David, I like David. First of all, let me say this. David Sisk, if you know him, he is the last person to ever put anything out for the sake of putting stuff out. He doesn't care about clicks. He doesn't care about engagement. He is a great A++ basketball reporter. The fact that somebody pulled it off a message board tells you what you need to know. This was not a tweet that David Sisk put out. This was even in an article that he put out. He posted it on a message board, and it's his obligation to bring information to his followers and his subscribers. And so David Sisk is not the type that's going to say, you know, just stuff for the sake of saying it. So the question becomes, is it 20 million and how close? And before we get into that, let me also give one caveat. I want to say this. So Kentucky fans, I'm going to defend you, but I would defend anybody if it was their school. I don't really care how much anybody spends in NIL. Okay. I want to make that clear. Bottom line is this. If you can raise the money and someone's willing to write the check, spend what you got to spend. I am not an NIL, peeper. I don't want to know what your team's spending. I don't really care. If UConn was spending 20, if St. John spends 20, if Auburn spends 20, I don't care. If you can convince somebody to give you the money, go ahead and spend it. And what I would also say too, you know what I was thinking about really quick, and we're going to get into Kentucky specifically. Like this whole thing about, oh, well, I mean, if Kentucky has 20 million, it's like, here's what I was thinking. Kentucky is really good in this NIL era. So is North Carolina. So is UConn. So is Arizona. So is the team coached by Rick Pitino. You know who else was good in the pre-NIL era? Kentucky, Arizona, North Carolina, Duke, UConn, wherever Rick Pitino was coaching. So like NIL, I don't want to say it makes no difference, but to me, the teams that are really good are still the same as they were in pre-NIL. And now the money that used to go into a new facility or into this or into that, it's now just going to the players. So I don't really care how much anybody's spending. I don't think it's really changed the top of college basketball all that much. The same teams are still good. But do I think the number is $20 million? I'll tell you, I don't know if it's 20. I do think it's pretty close, though, because I was thinking about this. First of all, I mentioned the Norlander article about that the top teams are spending at least $10 million. Okay. And I think that number, I think it's very accurate. Okay. And I think 10 million sounds crazy, but I think just based on some of the information that we know, you look at some of these rosters, you can get well past 10 million really quick. I'll just give you an example. We'll just use BYU. And I love BYU. We just talked about them 2 seconds ago. And by the way, I don't care what BYU spent, just like I don't care what UConn spent, just like I don't care what Kentucky spent. But BYU, we all heard the AJ DeBonsa rumors when he was being recruited. How much did he actually make? Was it 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 million? There was crazy numbers out there. What I believe the number is from BYU is about $4 to $4.5 million. Okay. By the way, I was told BYU by multiple people was not the highest bidder for AJ DeBonsa. He did not just go to the highest bidder. But if it's $4.5 million, now you start doing the math with Richie Saunders. Well, Richie Saunders ain't coming back for free. He's an All-American, Big 12, first team. He's probably at 3. We know Rob Wright was at like that $2.5 to $3 million range. I think the Rob Wright number was a little bit inflated, but I mean, if AJ got 4.5 and Richie got 3 and Rob Wright got 2.5, I'm not great at math. That comes out to $10 million for 3 players really quick. Okay. So now all of a sudden you got to backfill a roster. You can get to 12, 13, 14, $15 million really quickly. Arkansas, by the way, we don't have final numbers, but 3 prominent returnees, 2 5-star recruits, 1 international player who needs to be paid a buyout. And who am I missing? Oh, Carter Knox could come back. Two portal kids too. They have 9, 10 guys that can play. Even without Carter Knox, that's probably a $10 million budget. You add Carter Knox and you're getting over 10 million really quick. So this isn't a segment about everybody else. Let's talk Kentucky. Do I think the number is 20? No, but I think it's pretty close. Probably somewhere. I think they're one of the highest bidders because what we do, there are a couple pieces of information that we do know about Kentucky that like kind of set the tone for probably how much they spent. What do we know? Well, we know Denzel Aberdeen, who just committed last week, left Florida because Kentucky was essentially willing to double his salary. That is public information reported by Kentucky writers that basically Denzel Aberdeen was going to get $1 million from Florida. Kentucky offered him $2 million, and he's like, dude, I love my home state school. It was fun winning a natty, but if Kentucky's going to double my offer, then I got to go to Kentucky and take advantage of that. Jasper Johnson, the 5-star. I remember being told during the recruitment, the number from the other schools was at about 1.3, 1.4, and that Kentucky at first didn't feel like they could match it. And then the Kentucky boosters were like, do not let a 5-star get out of the state of Kentucky if you think he's good enough. So he's probably making like 1.5, 1 to 1.5 easily, I would say. And by the way, maybe getting a little bit of a hometown bump. Good for him. Deserves it. I have no issue with it. Mo Diabate. I mentioned it earlier. Alabama wanted him back, but he was looking for a number that was not in line with what Alabama could give. Alabama had to make a tough decision, just basically said, we don't have money to pay everybody. We're going to have to let you go. I think he thought he was a 7-figure player. We can argue, is that dumb? Is it crazy? Listen, this is the world we live in. If that's the going rate, then that's the going rate. So if he made 1.5 and then Jasper made 1.5, that's 3 right there. Then you add in Denzel Aberdeen, that's 5. By the way, Otega Owe, we know publicly it's been stated that teams tampered like crazy to get him in the portal. We're willing to make him one of the highest paid players. So if he comes back, that's like 3.5 right there. That's like $8 million just for 4 players. And you know who it doesn't include? Doesn't include maybe the best big guy in the portal in Jaden Quaintance. He ain't coming at a discount, even though I was told he too took less money to go to Kentucky than to some other schools. Does not include a starting point guard. That was very costly. Doesn't include McDonald's All-American Malachi Moreno. That wasn't cheap. Doesn't include Cam Williams, who came from Tulane. That wasn't cheap. Doesn't include, by the way, the European player who you probably had to buy out of a contract. That wasn't cheap. And so I just bring it up because all the money adds up quick. And so what I'll say is about that. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention Brandon Garrison. Brandon Garrison could be like an all-SEC 5-man next year. And there would have been a big hole in your roster if you didn't pay him. I think it's interesting with Brandon Garrison. It looked like he was going to go in the portal for a second. And I think we've seen with a lot of these teams is that they're kind of overpaying the guys from outside the program, and the guys in the program are getting pissed. It's why Chad Baker-Mazara left Auburn. It's why Denzel Aberdeen left Florida. He's like, dude, you're paying this new guy $3 million and I'm getting $1 million. I'm out. So whatever Jaden Quayens is getting, Brandon Garrison probably had to be in that ballpark as well. So again, I want to be abundantly clear. I don't really care what Kentucky spent. Spend the money if you can raise it. But I do think it was probably well north of 10 million. And I do think it was, if you start doing the math, like I said, I came to 8 million pretty quick for 4 players, and it wasn't the starting point guard, the starting center, probably the starting 4-man. You could do the math from there. Kentucky spent a lot of money, but hey, that's okay.